Hey everyone, today we're sitting in that quiet, low-lit room where all your past conversations play back like echoes, where the silence is louder than your voice, and the reflection staring back at you is tired of trying so hard. And if you think you can control how others feel about you, then maybe that's exactly what you haven't let go of yet. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is over there. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on a fan for some soft background noise. And let's begin today's journey together. You've been taught all the wrong things about attraction. Be kind. Be available. Compliment her looks. Text back fast. Be the man who never makes her doubt. Be the man who gives everything right away without being asked. You do all that, and she still pulls away. And when she does, you tell yourself it's because you weren't enough, when the truth is you were too much too soon. You were too visible, too easy, too emotionally naked. No mystery, no tension, no edge.
She didn't walk away because you were boring. She walked away because she could read you like a menu.
That's the part no one tells you, especially not the people who keep selling you the same how to be a nice guy advice wrapped in Instagram affirmations. You're not losing women because you're not giving enough. You're losing them because you gave them everything before they even asked for anything. Think of attraction like fire. You don't start a fire by pouring gasoline and standing too close. You start it by letting the spark breathe. But no one taught you how to breathe. They taught you how to perform. So you've been performing for years, over-explaining yourself, over-texting, overthinking. What she meant by, I'll see trying to be interesting, impressive, irresistible. And all that effort does is say one thing: I don't believe I'm enough without this performance. And the truth is, she can feel it. You don't need to manipulate her. You don't need to play games. But you do need to understand one thing. Obsession isn't created by availability. It's created by emotional gravity. The kind that pulls her in slowly without begging. It's in the way you pause before answering, the way you don't rush to explain yourself, the way you hold silence when she expects noise. That's power. She doesn't want a man who needs her attention to feel whole. She wants a man who could take it or leave it and still remain himself. You've probably heard the phrase, women love a confident man. But confidence isn't chest-pounding arrogance. It's not loud. It's not brash. It's not posting shirtless photos next to your leased BMW. It's knowing you can walk away and meaning it. It's knowing that her attention doesn't define your worth. You walk into a room. You don't need to dominate. You don't need to impress. You just take your time, like your time is valuable. You make eye contact, but don't chase it. You're the calm in a storm of people trying too hard. That calm is what draws her in. Like how a cat walks into a room and ignores everyone, and suddenly everyone wants the cat's attention. That's not just a quirk of human nature. That's emotional psychology. The less she feels she has of you, the more value she places on getting just a little more. Philosophers still debate how desire works, but one thing is clear: what's scarce becomes sacred. When your energy becomes rare, it becomes powerful. And when it's powerful, it's addictive. So here's the first shift: stop thinking about how to get her attention and start thinking about how to own your presence. Because your problem isn't that you're not good enough. It's that you're not scarce enough. You're not mysterious enough. You're not emotionally disciplined enough. You show all your cards before the first round is even played. And that's why she doesn't stay to play the game. But the moment you pull back, the moment you hold your frame, the moment you stop trying to impress and start letting her impress you, something shifts. Suddenly she's wondering who you really are. Suddenly your silence becomes a question she wants to answer. Suddenly your stillness becomes a signal that she wants to decode. And just like that, you're in her head, not because you chased her, but because you stopped running after people who never asked you to. Let that sink in. Now breathe. We're just getting started. You meet her. She's beautiful. You freeze. Your mind starts looking for something clever, respectful, impressive to say. And before you know it, you hear your own voice say the exact same thing every other man has already told her that day. You're gorgeous. And in that moment, she files you away in a folder she's labeled forgettable. You meant well, but all you did was confirm what she already knows, that you're seeing her the same way every stranger on the internet does. You just echoed the noise she's been trained to tune out. Here's the thing no one told you: women don't become obsessed with men who praise what's obvious. They become obsessed with men who see what's hidden. Because under that perfect eyeliner, that filtered selfie, that confident laugh, there's a human being who's starving to be seen in a different way. Not worshipped, not objectified, but understood. So stop worshiping her beauty, start seeing her brain. Compliment how she thinks, the way her opinion cuts through the noise, the way she makes connections no one else notices. That moment she mentioned something about a book she liked or a quiet opinion she didn't think anyone heard, yeah, that's your opening. That's where you make your mark. Say something like, "That's a rare way to see things. Most people just repeat what they hear, but you actually think for yourself." It doesn't matter if you're quoting Jung or talking about a rom-com. If your comment makes her stop and feel noticed for something that isn't her body, you've just stepped outside the box she usually keeps men in. And here's where the psychology kicks in. When you challenge her self-image in a way that affirms her depth, you create emotional friction. She wants to know what else you see. She starts chasing your attention because it's not cheap, it's precise. Remember the last time someone complimented you on something no one ever noticed before: your posture, your timing, your ability to stay calm under pressure. That compliment hit different because it revealed something about you. It didn't feel like flattery. It felt like insight. That's what you give her when you stop drooling and start perceiving. And it works even better when it's casual. No big speech, no poetic monologue, just a moment. A single line that lands hard because it came from presence, not performance. Women remember that, not because it strokes their ego, but because it cuts through their defenses. And here's the twist. The more you avoid commenting on her beauty, the more powerful your words become when you finally do. If weeks later you say, "By the way, I never mentioned this, but you're actually stunning," it hits like thunder. Because it wasn't the first thing out of your mouth. It wasn't predictable. It wasn't desperate. It was earned. That's what psychologists call a value reversal. You flip the script. Now she feels like she's winning you, not the other way around. She starts watching what she says more carefully. She starts wondering what you're thinking. She starts feeling like her personality matters, and that maybe this isn't another shallow exchange that ends with a half-hearted compliment and a disappearing act. That's when she gets hooked. Because women, like anyone, want to feel like they're more than a body, more than a photo, more than a walking highlight reel. You think you're being respectful when you tell her she's beautiful. But what you're actually doing is taking the safest, laziest route into a conversation that was never going to change her life. But when you see what's underneath, when you make her feel like her mind is the part of her that shines, you tap into a hunger she barely knows how to describe. It's the hunger to feel seen. Philosophers still debate whether beauty is objective or subjective. But one thing is certain: recognition is magnetic, and the kind that targets a person's intellect, creativity, or emotional intelligence. That's rare air. She may hear 10 compliments a day about her dress, but only one about her depth. Be that one. You don't need to flatter her looks. You need to unsettle her assumptions. You're not here to reinforce the same tired loop of attention-seeking and vanity. You're here to start a new dialogue, one where her mind is the centerpiece, not her waistline. Because once you do that, you stop being a guy she met. You become the man she remembers. You've been conditioned to think that when she starts texting more, liking your posts, laughing at your jokes, that's your cue to double down. More messages, more compliments, more availability. You start thinking, finally it's happening. She's interested. I better not mess this up. So you lean in, and she leans out. Because here's what no one teaches you. Attention is not a green light to speed up. It's a yellow light. Slow down. Be aware. Observe the flow, not just your desire to hold on to it. You think by showing more affection you'll keep her interested. But all you're doing is removing the very tension that made her interested in the first place. Obsession doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in contrast. When she starts leaning in and you don't match that energy right away, you create a gap. A subtle psychological pause. And in that pause, her mind starts racing. Why didn't he text back right away? Did I say something wrong? What's he doing? Who's he with? And suddenly you're in her head. Not because you played a game, but because you didn't follow the script. That script, the one where most guys rush to validate every move, reply in seconds, and panic at any sign of distance that's predictable. And what's predictable fades. Now don't get this twisted. This isn't about ghosting or punishment. It's not about playing hard to get like some middle school dare. It's about regulating the pace. About letting desire build instead of smothering it with constant attention. A simple example. She sends a thoughtful message. You smile, appreciate it, and take your time responding. Not because you're busy faking something, but because your life is full. You have things going on. You're not waiting for her message like a notification junkie. That restraint, it radiates power. Think about it. If someone's always immediately available, always responsive, always enthusiastic, it feels nice at first. Then it starts to feel expected, then invisible. Predictability kills anticipation, and women, especially emotionally attuned ones, need anticipation. It's the quiet moment between messages. It's the delay in making plans. It's the slow walk back to the table after she thought you were right behind her. That uncertainty. That's where her imagination starts filling in the blanks. Philosophers still argue about the balance between detachment and connection. But emotionally, the tension between closeness and distance is where attraction breathes. So the next time things start heating up, don't rush to meet her halfway. Stay in your lane, let her come closer, let her reach. And when she does, give her just enough. Enough to feel seen, enough to stay engaged, but not enough to make her feel like she's won something she hasn't earned. It's like seasoning a dish. Too much salt and you ruin the flavor. Just enough and she keeps coming back for another bite. A quirky way to think about this, imagine you're a really good mystery show on Netflix. If the plot gives away too much too soon, she stops watching. But if every episode leaves her wanting a little more, even when she thinks she figured it out, she can't stop binging. That's the energy. You're not cold, you're not withholding. You're simply aware of your value. You don't rush to prove it. You let her discover it slowly, painfully, beautifully. And when she starts to feel that imbalance, when she notices that her interest isn't being reflected with the same urgency, she starts investing more. Emotionally, mentally, physically. Because now it's not about whether she likes you. It's about whether you're slipping away. And that thought, that fear, that's what turns interest into obsession. But here's the part most men miss. They pull back too hard. They disappear. They confuse emotional distance with emotional immaturity. Don't do that. You're not here to punish. You're here to lead the tempo, to create a rhythm that keeps her heart slightly offbeat. That tension becomes gravity. It draws her in. She starts initiating. She starts overanalyzing. She starts craving a kind of closeness she can't quite pin down because it's not guaranteed. You're not being mean. You're being centered. You don't run after attention. You let it orbit you. And the moment she feels that, she leans in harder. You're at a party. She sees you across the room. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're not flexing, not showing off. You're just present, comfortable, engaged in a conversation that doesn't include her. And that's when she starts watching you differently. Not because you did something flashy, but because you didn't. There's a subtle magnetic energy that surrounds a man who isn't obsessed with proving himself. And when other women are naturally drawn to that energy, the air changes. It's not about flirtation. It's not about manipulation. It's about perception. Women are biologically wired to notice status not just in money or power, but in social value. And when she senses that other women feel something when they're around you, even if it's just ease, curiosity, or laughter, her interest deepens. You haven't said a word to her, but now you're on her mind. Here's what you need to understand. Jealousy, when used with intention, isn't about making her insecure. It's about creating emotional urgency. It's about reminding her without saying it that she's not the only one with eyes, that she's not your only option, and that if she wants your full attention, she's going to have to earn it. You don't need to post stories with other women. You don't need to make her jealous on purpose. That's middle school energy. What you need is to be the kind of man who attracts attention without chasing it. That means you keep your connections, your female friends, your social life. You stay in motion like a planet with its own orbit, and she either steps into your gravity or watches from the sidelines. Remember this: a man who centers his world around a woman loses his value, but a man who builds a world that women want to be part of that man becomes unforgettable. A quick real-world example. Think about how women react to a musician on stage. He's not singing to any one person. He's not chasing anyone's validation. But the moment he finishes that verse and walks off stage, he's surrounded. Why? Because he made them feel something without giving them everything. Your energy doesn't need to be loud. It needs to be calibrated, socially aware, confident, relaxed. A woman can spot that in 5 seconds. And when she sees you being admired, not because you're flaunting, but because you're grounded, something ancient gets triggered in her mind. Why do other women like him? What do they see that I'm missing? Am I too late? That's the spiral you want to initiate, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. Because if she's emotionally invested, that subtle jealousy activates her competitive instinct. She leans in, she pays attention. She recalibrates how much effort she's putting in and starts matching your energy instead of expecting it to be poured endlessly into her lap. Philosophers still debate the ethics of desire and competition. But in psychology, it's proven what others want. We start to want more. Even if she won't admit it, she wants to be the one who won you, not the one who simply found you waiting. And when she senses that other women find you attractive, that you're not glued to your phone, not waiting for her texts, not orbiting her every word, it sparks something. Suddenly you're not just a maybe. You're a prize. Not because you acted superior, but because you didn't need her attention to feel valid. That's the difference between confidence and neediness, and it shows up in every little gesture. You walk through a crowd and don't scan for her face. You leave a comment on someone's post without worrying what she'll think. You carry yourself like someone who lives a full life with or without her approval. And that's when she gets curious. That's when she starts fighting for a place in your life, not because you made her jealous on purpose, but because your energy reminded her you could be gone tomorrow. One quirky comparison. It's like seeing your favorite musician's tour almost sold out. Suddenly you're willing to pay double for a ticket. Why? Because scarcity increases value. You feel the urgency. That's what subtle jealousy does when you stay grounded. So don't fake it. Don't force it. Just keep living like a man who's not waiting to be chosen. And eventually, she'll wonder why you're not choosing her yet. You sit across from her. The conversation's going well. She's smiling, touching her hair, leaning closer. And you feel it, that warm electric pull to lock in the moment. To say something that keeps her there. To secure it. But deep down, something else is happening. You start clinging just a little. You start molding yourself into the man you think she wants. And that's the moment you give your power away. Because the second you start fearing her absence, she starts losing interest in your presence. Here's the truth most men never accept. Obsession doesn't come from a woman feeling needed. It comes from her feeling that she's not fully owned you yet. When she senses that you could walk away not out of ego, but from a place of self-respect, she pays attention differently. Not because you're threatening her, but because you're free. You see, most guys get a taste of connection, a soft look, a compliment, a physical spark, and immediately tie their emotional identity to it. Suddenly she's the sun, and he's just some satellite spinning around her validation. That's not love, that's dependency. And dependency is boring. Women don't obsess over men who act like the relationship is their only source of meaning. They become obsessed with the men who make them feel lucky to still be part of their world. Let's put this in real-world terms. Imagine a guy, you know, who has hobbies, purpose, friends, a clear direction. He doesn't get flustered when someone cancels plans. He doesn't explain his every move. He's emotionally self-contained. Now imagine how women feel around that man. Curious, a little unsteady, drawn in. That's because his energy isn't dictated by her attention. He's already solid. That's you, or at least it could be. But it starts with one shift stop, trying to avoid losing her. When you act like losing her would destroy your emotional equilibrium, she senses it, and it kills the tension. It removes the mystery. It says you're the best I'll ever get, and I'll do anything to keep you. That's not romantic. That's desperate. Now flip it. You look at her, and instead of needing her to like you, you ask yourself, do I even want her here long term? That shift is internal, quiet, but it radiates. Because now you're choosing. You're not chasing. You're not reacting to every mood swing or text delay. You're observing, evaluating, staying in your frame. And when she senses that you're grounded, that you're not waiting for her affection like a dog at the dinner table, she starts wondering what she needs to do to earn your attention. That's obsession fuel. Philosophers still explore the difference between love and attachment. But in the psychology of attraction, one thing is clear: power belongs to the one who's willing to walk away. Not recklessly, not rudely, but with calm clarity. You don't threaten her. You don't say, I'll leave if you don't treat me right. You just live in a way that says, if this doesn't align, I'm gone. No drama, no pleading. Because you know who you are without her. And ironically, that's what makes her stay. Not because you manipulated her, but because you reminded her emotionally that you're a man with standards. A quirky metaphor. Think of yourself as a restaurant that doesn't advertise. There's no neon sign, No happy hour discounts. People just know the food is good. And if someone walks in and complains about the menu, you don't beg them to stay. You let them go because you know the right people always come back. That's the energy. So the next time you feel the pull to chase, pause, breathe, and remember walking away isn't weakness. It's the frame that keeps your dignity intact. It's the boundary that teaches her not to take your presence for granted. It's the quiet whisper that says, you don't control me. You inspire me, or you don't belong here. And when a woman meets a man who doesn't need her but still chooses her, that's the man she can't stop thinking about. You ever notice how predictable people fade from your memory? The ones who always say the same things, react the same way, follow the same emotional script. They might feel safe, even comforting, but they don't stay on your mind. They don't haunt your thoughts. Now think about someone you could never quite figure out. Someone who surprised you, not in loud, chaotic ways, but in quiet shifts. A moment of unexpected kindness, a joke when you expected silence, a distance when you assumed closeness. That's the person who lives in your head rent-free. Because your brain craves patterns, and it craves breaking them even more. This is the psychology of unpredictability, and it's one of the most powerful forces in attraction, especially for women. You want her obsessed, then never let her fully decode you. Be consistent in values, but unpredictable in presence. One night you're deep, thoughtful, grounded. The next you're playful, teasing, even a little sarcastic. That subtle unpredictability creates emotional tension, and emotional tension is the currency of obsession. Let's get practical. You always text back fast, delay it. You always initiate plans, wait and let her initiate. You always greet her with the same compliment. Next time, skip it and comment on something completely unrelated, like the way she positioned her question or how her playlist is all over the place in a strangely charming way. That unpredictability hits differently. It doesn't make you unstable. It makes you multidimensional. Because what she's really drawn to isn't control, it's discovery. The moment she thinks she's figured you out, the curiosity fades. But when she feels there's more layers, more depth, more edges she hasn't touched, she leans in. Harder, deeper, longer. You become an emotional puzzle, a Rubik's Cube with a poker face. And the best part, you don't have to force anything. You just stop showing up on autopilot. You stop becoming an algorithm. Imagine you're on a second date. First date, you were calm, philosophical, sipping your drink slowly like some stoic monk. This time, you show up with a story about the time you locked yourself out of your apartment wearing only a towel and Crocs. She laughs not just because it's funny, but because it breaks her image of you. Suddenly, you're not the emotionally intense guy. You're unpredictable, real, alive. And that shift, that jolt, that's the hook. Philosophers still discuss the tension between stability and mystery in human connection. And while stability builds trust, mystery builds attraction. Unpredictability isn't about being erratic. It's about subtle contrast. And contrast makes you unforgettable. One quirky image to hold on to. You're like her favorite playlist, mostly chill, a little intense. And then out of nowhere, one song hits like a shot of tequila at brunch. She wasn't ready. And now she can't stop replaying it. That's the feeling you want to create. So stop announcing every move. Stop over-explaining your emotions. Stop trying to be perfectly consistent in how you engage with her. Instead, let her wonder who she's getting today. The grounded version of you. The sarcastic one. The one who holds her gaze without saying a word. Give her layers, but not all at once. Because once she believes she's uncovered all of you, she'll move on. But when she knows there's more and she's not sure when or how she'll see it, she keeps coming back. She invests more time, more thought, more emotion, trying to crack the code. And the beautiful part, there's no code. You're just not boring. You're not routine. You're not someone she can explain to her friends in 2 sentences. You're the exception. The one who stays calm but keeps surprising her. The one who brings peace and still has an edge. That kind of man. He doesn't need to chase. Because she'll spend weeks trying to figure out what made her feel like this. You walk into a room and you're not trying to stand out, but somehow you do. You're not showing off. You're not louder than anyone else. But women notice you. They lean in when you speak. They smile a little longer. They touch their hair without thinking. And she sees it. She might not say anything. Might act like she didn't notice. But she did. And in that moment, her perception of you starts to shift, not because you tried to make her jealous, but because your social value just went up without you even saying a word. Here's what most men get wrong. They think loyalty means isolation. They meet a woman they like and instantly cut off every other connection. No more female friends, no more social energy, no more edge. They become singular in their orbit, and in doing so, they become ordinary. But the reality is this: women subconsciously assess your desirability through the behavior of others, especially other women. If no one else seems drawn to you, her brain starts asking, why am I? But if other women light up around you, laugh, engage, seek your presence, even subtly, it activates a different response. What do they see that I'm starting to miss? It's not about flirting. It's not about being flashy. It's about allowing your social value to be visible. Because women compete quietly, strategically, emotionally, and when they feel there's something to win, they show up differently. It's the reason luxury brands don't advertise with sales. They show scarcity, high demand, exclusivity. And suddenly, people want what they weren't sure they needed before. You can be the same way. Your job isn't to fake status. It's to become the kind of man who naturally holds attention. Not by being loud, but by being centered, present, engaged in a way that makes people feel seen. Because when women enjoy being around you, not for how you look, but for how they feel in your presence, that becomes your marketing. Silent, effective. Philosophers still reflect on the idea that value is subjective. But psychology shows us that value often follows visibility. When your desirability is mirrored by others, her mind adjusts accordingly. Let's ground this in reality. Say you're talking to a group of people, one of them laughs, touches your arm lightly. Another woman leans in when you speak. Nothing inappropriate, nothing forced. But she sees it. Now she starts replaying moments, measuring her presence, evaluating her effort. And whether she says it out loud or not, she's suddenly invested. Because now it's not just about liking you, it's about keeping you. And that's where the obsession grows. You become someone she wants to win over, not someone she assumes is already hers. And this isn't about scarcity alone. It's about perceived competition, a quirky comparison. Think of a coffee shop that's always full. People line up, wait outside. Some walk away, but most stay. Why? Because full places trigger urgency. If others are waiting, it must be worth it. The same rule applies here, so don't dim your light to prove loyalty. Don't go invisible just to make her feel secure. Live fully, socialize confidently, let your vibe speak for you. Because when she feels that other women see something in you, something magnetic, she'll want to claim it before it slips through her fingers. It's not manipulation, it's human nature, and if you understand that you don't need to do anything extra, just be seen, be kind, be real, and let her feel that subtle, terrifying realization, I'm not the only one who notices him. That feeling, it rewires everything. You meet a woman, you like her, and you do what you've been taught to do. You show up. Text her first. Compliment her. Make plans. Double text when she doesn't reply. Stay up late to talk even when you're tired. And in your head, it feels noble, romantic, devoted. But in her head, it starts to feel like white noise. Not because she doesn't appreciate you, but because she doesn't have to. You're always there, always on, always available. And without contrast, attention loses its flavor. Think of it like this: even the best song gets dull if you play it on repeat for hours. Even your favorite food starts to lose its magic if you never take a break. Women crave emotional movement, tension, variation, the arc of an experience. So when you give her consistent, uninterrupted attention, what you're actually doing is robbing her of the craving that makes attention meaningful. She can't miss you because you never left. She can't chase because you never pulled away. She can't replay your words in her head because there was no silence after them. This is where the dynamic shifts. You need to learn how to give your presence with intention and then disappear. Not to punish, not to manipulate, but to let her feel the value of your absence. The man who gives her a burst of warmth, connection, eye contact, and then goes quiet for a beat, that man stays in her mind because she starts wondering where that feeling went. Was it real? Will it come back? Did she lose it? That emotional gap becomes the space where obsession is born. Philosophers often argue that desire is not about possession, but about the tension between proximity and distance. The wanting, the almost, the ache. You want her to obsess, make her feel the ache. A practical example. Say you had an amazing conversation. You both laughed, opened up. Maybe even shared a quiet, magnetic moment of stillness. Now walk away. Don't text her a paragraph about how amazing it was. Don't follow it up with a stream of compliments. Just let it breathe. Let her sit in the feeling. Let her replay it. Let her want more. Then when you do return, your presence feels earned, rare, valued. It's the same principle that keeps people hooked on great stories. The writer ends each chapter just before the reveal. Each episode cuts to black right before the twist. And you're left reaching for the next moment because the last one didn't complete you. That's how you should be emotionally. Not unfinished, not distant, just not predictable. A quirky metaphor. You're the candle in the room. You light it, it flickers, fills the air, then you blow it out. Now there's only smoke, memory, warmth that lingers. And she misses the light, even though she didn't notice how much she needed it while it was there. That's your attention. Too many men make the mistake of thinking consistency means intensity. But real consistency, it's about intention, not saturation. You show up when it matters, and then you leave space for her to feel what it's like without you. And that space, it's where longing grows. So here's your shift. Don't fear silence. Don't fear pauses. Don't fear being missed. Because when she doesn't hear from you right away, and she wants to, that's when you've got her. Not because you're playing games, but because you finally understood that attention like fire only burns when you let the air in. She sends a dry message, slower replies, shorter words. You feel it, the drop in energy. Your instincts start to panic. You type and delete. You wonder if she's pulling away. You wonder if you should say something funny or deep or just say something at all to keep the thread alive. But instead of reacting, you wait. You let the silence settle. And that pause is where your power lives. Because silence, when used with calm intention, isn't weakness. It's a message. And in a world that never stops talking, it's the loudest one you can send. See, most guys crumble in silence. They can't bear the space between interactions. They double text. They fill the gap with neediness. They try to fix the stillness like it's a broken pipe. But the man who doesn't flinch, the one who doesn't explain, doesn't chase, doesn't fill every moment with noise, he becomes the anomaly. And women notice anomalies, not the guy who ghosts, not the one playing cold for control, but the man who simply stays still, grounded, calm, unmoved. That silence, it echoes, especially if you've already built a strong presence, if you've made her feel seen, warmed, connected, and then you pull back slightly. Now she notices. Now she wonders. Not in an angry way, not in a fearful way, but in a way that makes her check her phone. Reread your last message. Ask herself, where did that energy go? Because here's the paradox, your presence only becomes powerful when your absence has weight. You want to be unforgettable, then don't be everywhere. Be intentional, be deliberate. And when the moment comes, withdraw. Quietly, cleanly, like the sun setting behind a mountain. No drama, just gone. That gap creates imbalance. And in her emotional world, imbalance is motion. She leans in, she reaches, she re-engages. Not because you manipulated her, but because you created contrast. Psychologists understand this deeply. It's the contrast principle. A moment of warmth followed by distance intensifies both sensations. It deepens the memory. It heightens the craving. And craving leads to obsession. But there's a catch. This only works if your silence follows presence. You can't disappear from nothing. If you've been emotionally distant from the start, your silence doesn't land, it evaporates. But if you showed up, if you gave her warmth, clarity, connection, and then went quiet, now that silence becomes magnetic. Think about how a good movie ends a scene. A line, a glance, a door closing, fade to black. Your silence is that cut to black. A quirky analogy. You're like a great novel that skips the epilogue. She's flipping pages, realizing that was it. And now she's staring into space, imagining what happens next. That's where you want her emotionally. Not bored, not overfed, but curious. So the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself in a long text, don't. The next time she says something passive-aggressive or distant, don't bite. The next time you sense the energy drop, step back with grace. Not to punish her, but to remind yourself and her that you are not a puppet. You're a man with a frame. A man who doesn't beg for clarity. A man who knows his value is not in how fast he responds, but in how deeply she feels it when he goes quiet. Philosophers say silence is the language of the soul. And when used with precision, not avoidance, not manipulation, but stillness, it becomes your greatest advantage. She'll start feeling it, then questioning it, then reaching for the signal you stopped sending. And when she does, you don't jump. You wait. Let the silence teach. Let her come to you. Because the man who knows when to speak, but more importantly, when not to that man, is unforgettable. She's been through this before. Maybe not with you, but with others. The men who compliment her beauty too fast, who text a little too eagerly, who respond to every emotional shift like they're riding shotgun on a roller coaster she's barely aware she's driving. She knows how this story goes. She's already rehearsed it. But then you show up, and for the first time the script doesn't play out the way she expected. You don't compliment the picture she posted at golden hour. You mention the caption, the tone, the cleverness, the hidden meaning. You don't rush to reply when she teases you. You smile. Maybe say nothing. Maybe you tilt your head and say cute move, then change the subject. And that subtle deviation breaks her pattern. It creates friction, the kind that doesn't wound, the kind that wakes her up. Because suddenly you're not following her lead. You're not participating in her emotional choreography. You're leading with your own rhythm, calm, unexpected, centered. And her brain, which has run this emotional simulation 100 times, pauses. Wait, what just happened? That pause is everything. Because most men don't even realize women run emotional scripts. Not just in relationships, but in micro moments. When they say something provocative, they expect a reaction. When they act distant, they expect pursuit. When they flirt, they expect flattery. And the moment you don't follow that emotional GPS, you become a detour she didn't see coming. It doesn't have to be dramatic. In fact, it shouldn't be. You don't argue, you don't negate, you just gently reroute. She posts something for attention. You don't respond publicly, you respond privately and shift the focus. She makes a passive-aggressive comment to see if you'll chase. You smile and say, "I've seen that move before," and stay unbothered. Now she's confused but intrigued, because you didn't fall into her categories. You didn't give her the reaction she expected. You gave her something new, presence with discernment. Philosophers say human beings are addicted to pattern recognition, but they're fascinated by what they can't predict. You want to become unforgettable. Don't be her next comfort character. Be the plot twist, a quirky metaphor. Imagine you're in an elevator and someone presses every floor button expecting a long, slow ride. But instead, the elevator skips half the floors. No warning, no explanation. Suddenly she's wondering what kind of elevator this is and how far it actually goes. That's what you are. Not rude, not erratic. Just quietly different. You're not reacting to her energy, you're reshaping it. And here's where most guys ruin it. They try to dominate, to prove something, to be alpha in the loudest, most exhausting way. But what actually works? Subtle intentional disruption. Let her think she knows what's next, then gently pivot. It's the quiet redirection that disarms her. Because it doesn't say, "I'm in control." It says, "I don't need control. I just don't follow emotional autopilot." You're not rejecting her. You're inviting her into a different pace, a slower breath, a cleaner space. One where she's no longer the director of the emotional script, and that unsettles her in the best way. Because when a woman feels that she's not in charge of the story anymore, she starts reading more carefully. She listens, she replays, she becomes invested. Not because you confused her, but because you made her pay attention. And when you can hold that frame, when you can walk calmly through her tests, her patterns, her silent withdrawals, without ever needing to punish or prove, she starts seeing you as something entirely different. Not a scene in her movie. You're the man who rewrites the genre. You're not cold, you're just not controlled. And that to a woman who's used to emotionally reactive men feels different, unnerving, attractive in a way she doesn't want to admit. Because emotional self-control isn't about being distant, it's about being anchored. When she flirts, you don't melt. When she pulls away, you don't chase. When she sends a passive comment, you don't react. You see the game, you just don't play it on her terms. That's what it means to be emotionally untouchable. It's not arrogance, it's not apathy, it's quiet strength. It's knowing that nothing she does can shake your sense of self. That her silence won't break you. That her mood swings won't dictate how you show up in your life. And that energy, that rare energy, it pulls her in. Because now she's the one reacting. She's the one checking her phone. She's the one wondering what you're thinking. She's the one asking herself why she feels this way about a man who doesn't even try to control her. Here's the shift stop being the guy who's emotionally available in all the wrong ways. You don't need to reply to every message. You don't need to match every tone. You don't need to mirror her moods like you're a human echo. That's not connection, that's submission. And women don't obsess over men who submit. They obsess over men who remain. Still, solid, unmoved. That's the thing about Stoicism. It's not just a philosophy, it's a posture. You observe your emotions. You don't suppress them, you just don't let them own you. That's where obsession lives. In the presence of a man who can feel deeply but never loses himself. A practical example. Let's say she tries to provoke you. Maybe with a comment like, "I bet girls fall for your type all the time." Most guys would flinch, defend, laugh awkwardly, or flex harder to prove they're not that guy. You just smile. Say, "That's a bold assumption," and keep sipping your drink. No edge, no defense, just stillness. Now she's off balance. Not because you overpowered her, but because she couldn't move you. And people obsess over what they can't move. That's the game no one talks about. The man who controls his inner world controls the entire dynamic. She feels safe. Not because you're soft, but because you're centered. She feels drawn. Not because you're trying, but because you're still. It's like standing next to the ocean. It doesn't need your approval. It doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It just is. That's who you become when you master your emotional state. And it's not about never feeling hurt, never feeling attraction, never feeling doubt. It's about letting those feelings pass through you without knocking you off balance. A quirky analogy. You're a mountain in a windstorm. The wind can howl, scream, shake the trees, but the mountain doesn't move. And in that stillness, everything else starts to recalibrate, especially her, because women live in a world of emotion. They test for steadiness, not consciously, not always, but consistently. And the man who passes that test, who doesn't flinch when she pulls away, who doesn't spiral when she goes quiet, who doesn't break when she breaks pattern, that man is rare. And what's rare is treasured. So here's your closing move. Let go of the need to be the man who wins her over with words, with effort, with constant availability. Become the man who wins her over by needing nothing. The man whose power lives in his posture, in his pauses, in the quiet confidence of someone who knows if she stays, it's because she wants to. Not because you convinced her, not because you chased her, but because your presence alone is the kind that changes how she sees every other man. You're not performing anymore. You're just being. And in that stillness, she falls. Now take a deep breath. Let everything settle. The noise, the need, the urge to prove something. Because this silence right here is where real power begins. You don't need to remember every line, every technique, every clever response. What matters more than anything is the frame you live in. You are not here to win women. You're here to stop losing yourself. That means no more chasing for approval. No more handing over your emotions just because she looked your way. No more shrinking into the shape of what you think she wants. You hold the tension. You create the contrast. You make her feel what she didn't expect to feel, not through force, not through performance, but through presence. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not arrogant. You're anchored. You don't try to be unforgettable. You simply stop being predictable. So if you've ever felt like the guy who's always almost enough, who's always one compliment, one response, one effort away from being noticed, understand this. You were never missing effort. You were missing energy. That quiet, grounded energy of a man who no longer needs anyone to chase him because he's finally walking in the direction of his own worth. She'll feel that. She'll see it. She'll return to it in her mind. Not because you played her, but because you held your ground when most men collapsed. And when the noise fades and the memories blur, it's your silence she'll still hear. It's your absence she'll still feel. End of script. Have a beautiful day.